Stop deadheading your roses. Put the pruners down. Every time you snip a spent bloom the same way you've been doing it for years, you're cutting off the very signal that tells the plant to bloom again. Your rose bush isn't lazy. It isn't old. It isn't done. It's been waiting for you to stop sabotaging it. The average American homeowner spends roughly $40 to $80 a year per rose bush on fertilizer, sprays, and replacement plants. Most of that money is fixing problems the homeowner accidentally created. The plant doesn't need more product. It needs 7 specific things in a specific order that nobody at the garden center is going to explain to you because most of them cost nothing. Today, I'm going to show you the 7 secrets that turn a once-a-spring rose into a plant that pushes blooms from May through October. Real science from named institutions, real numbers, real mechanisms. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which cut to make this Saturday, exactly what to feed your roses tonight, and exactly which mistake has been costing you the second flush of blooms every year. And secret number 1, the one I saved for last, is the one a retired horticulturalist at my local extension office told me almost no homeowner ever gets right. Let me show you what's really going on. Here's the problem with most rose advice you read online. It's been copied and rewritten so many times that nobody remembers where it came from, and the underlying mechanism has been stripped out. You're told to deadhead, you're told to fertilize, you're told to mulch. But nobody explains why, and that's exactly why your results have been inconsistent. A rose bush is what botanists call a repeat flowering shrub, a plant whose genetics include a hormonal feedback loop that triggers new flower production when specific conditions are met. The loop has 3 switches: light, nutrition, and what's called apical dominance suppression. That last term sounds intimidating, but it just means breaking the chemical signal that tells the plant, you're done blooming for the season. Most homeowners only flip one of those 3 switches. That's why you get one beautiful flush in June and then a tired plant for the rest of summer. According to the American Rose Society and research from the University of Illinois Extension, a properly managed repeat blooming rose in zones 5 through 9 should produce 3 to 4 distinct flushes per growing season. 3 to 4, not 1. If you're getting 1, you're not failing as a gardener. You're missing the mechanism. Now let me give you the 7 secrets in order, starting with the one most beginners get wrong on day 1. Top 1. Watering at the base, never on the leaves. This sounds obvious, but the science is the part nobody explains. Roses are highly susceptible to a fungal disease called black spot, caused by Diplocarpon rosae. According to Clemson Extension's Home and Garden Information Center, black spot spores require approximately 7 hours of continuous leaf wetness to germinate and infect tissue. 7 hours. That's the threshold. When you water with a sprinkler in the evening, you're handing the fungus exactly the environment it needs. The leaves stay wet through the night and infection takes hold by morning. Water at the base of the plant, ideally in the early morning, using a soaker hose or just a slow trickle from a watering can. 1 inch of water per week applied at the soil line. That single change can dramatically reduce black spot pressure without a single drop of fungicide. A bottle of commercial rose fungicide runs $15 to $25. The fix here costs $0. Top 2, mulch correctly and do not let it touch the cane. Roses need consistent soil moisture and stable root temperatures. A 2 to 3 inch layer of shredded hardwood mulch around the base does both. But here's the part most beginners miss. Pull the mulch back 2 to 3 inches from the main cane itself. Mulch piled against the cane creates what arborists call collar rot, a damp pocket where fungal pathogens and crown borers thrive. The University of Minnesota Extension specifically warns against volcano mulching around any woody plant. A flat ring, not a cone, free if you make your own from fallen leaves. $12 to $20 a bag at the garden center if you don't. Top 3, feed the soil, not the plant. The fertilizer aisle wants you to buy Bloom Booster every 6 weeks at $18 a box. Here's what the research actually says. A 2019 publication from the Royal Horticultural Society found that roses grown in soil amended with well-rotted compost and a single annual application of balanced organic fertilizer outproduced roses on a heavy synthetic feeding schedule by a measurable margin in both bloom count and disease resistance. Roses are heavy feeders, but they want steady feeding from living soil, not spikes from synthetic salts. The mechanism is microbial. Beneficial soil fungi called mycorrhizae form a partnership with rose roots, extending the plant's effective root surface area significantly and helping it pull phosphorus and trace minerals from a much wider zone. Synthetic high-salt fertilizers can suppress these fungi. Compost feeds them. Grab a pen. Here's the simple feeding schedule. 1 to 2 inches of compost spread around the drip line in early spring. One application of a balanced organic granular fertilizer, something like a 4-6-4 at bud break. A second light feeding after the first flush of blooms in June. Stop all feeding by August 15th in cold climates, August 30th in warmer zones, so the plant can harden off before winter. That's the entire program. Maybe $15 a season per bush. Top 4, the 5-leaflet cut. This is where the deadheading mistake lives, and this is the one most beginners need to hear. When you cut a spent rose bloom, look at the stem below it. You'll see groups of leaves with 3 leaflets, then groups with 5 leaflets, then sometimes 7. The number of leaflets per cluster matters. A bud cut just above a 3-leaflet cluster will produce a weak, often blind stem, meaning a stem that grows but never forms a bud. A cut made just above the first outward-facing 5-leaflet cluster triggers what botanists call a strong basal break, a vigorous new shoot that will carry a full bloom in 4 to 6 weeks. That's the loop. Spent bloom comes off. Cut at the 5-leaflet outward-facing. New cane pushes, blooms again. 4 to 6 weeks later, repeat. 3 to 4 flushes per season, exactly as the American Rose Society describes. Cut at a 45-degree angle, sloping away from the bud, about a 1/4 inch above the leaf node. Clean, sharp bypass pruners only. Wipe the blades with rubbing alcohol between bushes. This single habit, according to Cornell Cooperative Extension, prevents the spread of a virus called rose mosaic between plants. Top 5. Sunlight in the specific number you need to know. Roses are not partial shade plants. According to the University of California Cooperative Extension, repeat blooming roses require a minimum of 6 hours of direct sunlight per day to produce consistent flushes, with 8 hours being optimal. Below 6 hours, the plant will survive, but it will bloom once in spring and then coast. If your rose is in a spot that gets 4 hours of sun, no fertilizer, no pruning trick, no compost program will fix that. The mechanism is photosynthesis. Flower production is metabolically expensive. The plant simply does not have the energy budget to produce repeat blooms without that light input. Honest limit. If you can't move the plant, you can't fix this one. Consider replacing it with a partial shade-tolerant shrub or moving the rose in late fall to a sunnier spot. Some hardy shrub roses, particularly the Knockout series and certain rugosa varieties, tolerate as little as 5 hours, but no rose thrives in true shade. The marketing on the tag will tell you partial shade tolerant. The plant will tell you something different. Quick question while we're on the topic. How many hours of direct sun does your rose actually get? Stand by the bush at 8 a.m., noon, and 4 p.m. on a sunny Saturday and count. Drop the number in the comments. I read every single one. Top 6, the summer haircut. This is the one nobody talks about, and it's the difference between a rose that fades in August and one that explodes in September. In late July, most roses look exhausted. The canes are leggy, the leaves are tired, and the blooms have shrunk. Most homeowners assume that's the end of the show. It isn't. According to the American Rose Society's published guidance, a light pruning in late July or early August, removing roughly 1.3 of the plant's height and shaping out crossing canes, triggers what plant physiologists call a compensatory growth response. The plant interprets the cut as a stress signal, redirects stored sugars from the roots, and pushes a vigorous new round of growth that produces a strong fall flush 6 to 8 weeks later. In zones 5 through 7, do this between July 25th and August 10th. In zones 8 and 9, you can push it to mid-August. Cut back about a third. Water deeply afterward. Apply that second light feeding I mentioned in the Secret 5. Then wait. By mid-September, your roses will be loaded with buds while your neighbor's plants are coasting toward dormancy. 3 mistakes that will undo this entire program. Pay attention because these are the ones I see most often. Mistake 1, pruning in fall. In cold climates, pruning after late August signals the plant to push tender new growth that will not survive the first hard frost. Cane dieback follows. Wait until early spring, just as buds begin to swell, for major structural pruning. The summer haircut from Secret 2 is different. It's a shaping cut, not a hard prune. Mistake 2, using high nitrogen lawn fertilizer near roses. If you fertilize your lawn with a high nitrogen product and it drifts into your rose bed, you'll get lush green foliage and almost no blooms. Roses need a balanced or slightly phosphorus-leaning ratio. Nitrogen dumped on a rose is exactly the same problem you'd have on a fruit tree, leaves at the cost of flowers. Mistake 3, ignoring fall cleanup. Black spot spores overwinter on fallen leaves and infected canes. The University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension specifically recommends raking and disposing of all rose leaves at the end of the season. Do not compost them. Skip this and you'll battle black spot every single year on the same plant. Top 7, bone meal at planting and at the start of every spring. This is the one the retired horticulturist at the extension office told me almost no homeowner gets right. Specifically, a tablespoon worked into the soil at the drip line, lightly covered with soil and watered in. Bone meal contains roughly 15% phosphorus in a slow-release form. According to research summarized by Penn State Extension, phosphorus is the single most important macronutrient for flower bud formation in woody perennials, and it's also the most commonly deficient nutrient in established suburban beds, because phosphorus moves very slowly through soil. You can fertilize the surface for years and not get phosphorus down to the root zone where the plant needs it. Worked in at the drip line in early spring, bone meal slowly releases phosphorus over 6 to 8 months, exactly the window your rose needs it. The mechanism is what soil scientists call root zone availability. The phosphorus releases right where the feeder roots can use it, instead of binding to soil particles at the surface and becoming locked. One safety note, bone meal smells like food to dogs. Bury it well, cover with mulch, and store the bag in a sealed container. Also, do not use bone meal if your soil pH is above 7.0. It won't release effectively in alkaline soil. A $5 liquid soil pH test kit will tell you in 5 minutes whether your soil is in the 6.0 to 6.8 sweet spot where bone meal actually works. Cost about $4 per bush per year, the cheapest secret on this list and the one that does the most work underground. Honest limits before we close. This program works for repeat blooming modern roses, hybrid teas, floribundas, grandifloras, shrub roses, and the knockout series. It does not work the same way for once blooming heritage roses, ramblers, or species roses, which bloom on old wood and have completely different pruning requirements. If you're not sure what type of rose you have, check the tag or call your local extension office. Most county offices will identify a rose from a photo for free. I want to be transparent about one more thing. Roses are not magic. A neglected rose that hasn't been pruned in 5 years won't bounce back in one season just because you started doing everything right. Give it a full growing year. By season 2, you'll see the difference. Picture this. Next October, while your neighbor's rose has 3 sad blooms and yellow leaves, yours is still pushing fresh buds. The canes are clean. The foliage is dark green. You walk out with your coffee in the morning and cut a fresh stem for the kitchen table in October. That's not luck. That's not an expensive variety. That's 7 decisions made in the right order. The retired horticulturist who told me about the bone meal trick, she's been growing roses for 40 years. She has 28 bushes in her front yard. She told me she's never bought a bloom booster in her life. Compost, bone meal, the 5-leaflet cut, the summer haircut, and water at the base. That's the whole program. Now you know what she knows. Your action step this week is very specific. This Saturday morning, walk out to your rose bush, find the most recently spent bloom. Trace down the cane until you see the first outward-facing 5-leaflet cluster. Make one clean cut at a 45-degree angle, a 1/4 inch above that node. One cut. That's it. In 4 to 6 weeks, you'll have a new bloom on that exact cane, and you'll know exactly why. Then come back and tell me in the comments how many rose bushes do you have and what's the variety. I'll be reading every single one, And the most common variety mentioned will become the next video, a deep dive on the specific feeding and pruning schedule for that exact rose. If this story changed the way you look at the roses in your garden, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the horticultural secrets that they have tried to keep hidden. Cultivate your future. The next garden treasure will be revealed soon.